Parv is going on, the Kumbh is going on, these days. I'm sure many of you would have taken a dip in it. So we start with God. In God, we trust. Everyone else has to come with data, right? So I think it's the way we have seen the financial landscape change, the data has become very, very important. I mean, we all hear data is a new oil, etc., all these kind of things. And there was a wonderful author, Prashant Southkill. He has written some very good books on AI and data. And he says in one of the books, which is Analytics Best Practices, he says companies have tons and tons of data. But the success is not about collection of data. The success is about data management. And how do we derive insights from that data? All of us in our own companies, create large number of data. And there are data points, in a manufacturing company. There are chips on every machine, and we are capturing every second and nanosecond of it, and creating all that kind of a data. We are, currently setting up a very large arts and culture center in Vasant Kunj. It's called The Bridge. And it'll be a huge, I think something of its kind that has been done globally in the last 100 years or so. And while we are looking at it, we are trying to see how we can capture all the data for the people that come in, the emotional state. When we are looking at security, we are looking at traffic management, we are looking at museum management, we are looking at what people like. So it has gone and touched every part of our life. And that data, how do you really see that data? The kind of volume and the kind of velocity of that data is enormous. So therefore, you have to try and see what you do with data. And what can you do with data is, I always say, हमने जितनी दूर तक देखा वही हमारी सीमा रेखा. You can do whatever you want to do, as long as you can think what this data can be used. To give you an example, we have an insurance broking company. It's also one of the larger insurance broking company in India. It's called Hero Insurance Broking. We do 70, 80 lakhs to a crore, policies every year. So the kind of data that we would have is enormous. But how do we use the data? Are we really taking insight from data? We're using it for upsell, cross-sell kind of thing? Because if I am selling a motorcycle to a consumer, that's not the only thing he's consuming. We are a real estate company also, so there is a housing need for that customer. And there are multiple ways you can really use that data. Of course, keeping the privacy of data in mind, keeping consent of the people while we use the data, and ethical considerations are uppermost. I don't really think that's up here for discussion. But once you can collect the data, you have to imagine. And the theme, today is reimagine finance, right? How you can reimagine, and that reimagining will only ensure how do you really put that data in a way that it gives you the right kind of insight. And once you have that, then sky's the limit, as we say. So what it does is, It enhances your decision making. It gives you operational efficiency. It works for risk management. Actually, you think and you can do whatever you want to do with data, as long as you have the right kind of data in place, you have the data quality, which is good. And all of us, in our own lives, we have, let's say, implemented ERPs. All of us have done that, right? And once we do that implementation, I always say there are only two factors which are most important in any ERP implementation. One is the data quality. Please make sure that your data quality is absolutely close to perfection. And two, you have the right people. The talent, the right talent. That's another thing, which is extremely important while you do for data analytics, or you do for digitalization, or you do for anything, And I've actually said that often in many stages, that for change management, there are three things which are very important. One is people, two is people, three is people, right? So whatever you do, your people management has to be good. I think with this kind of a background and in the ocean of data that we are here, how do we convert that information into insights? And I have a wonderful panel, with me, and I would like to, maybe who should I start with? Somebody sitting right next to me, Suparna. I come to you. So, Suparna, how has data analytics transformed the financial decision making in the organizations? And what are the biggest strategic advantages it offers today?
Thank you, and you put your first question to me, so probably I hope I'm able to do justice to what you've asked, and probably the audience will appreciate what I'm trying to say. So, very good morning to all of you, and I'm sure you all came in quite early considering the traffic and the geography of Delhi NCR. And good to see you here all, and some very known faces. Having said that, Jogendra ji has already talked about the data analytics, its importance, and how we can leverage data for financial decision making, and probably I'll add something to that. He's already set the context, though. We all are in organizations, and especially representing finance functions, which I would assume most of you are, is something the management, today what the management really expects is how we can support as finance function people in the data, data presentation to the organization. We have huge amounts of data, structured, unstructured, and today our entire filtration process of the data is a huge challenge. We really don't know what data is required, how it has to be filtered, how it has to be presented to the management. So most important for us is that we need to understand what kind of data is required by the management. And with that, comes our years of experience in understanding the pulse of the management. Traditionally, we finance people have been into reporting roles. We pull out the data, make it kind of presentable, give it to the management. So it is more of a reporting kind of a job which we've been doing. We've grown up with me over 25 years of experience, and similar, maybe close to 2 decades of experience, and Jogendra ji anyways has loads of experience. So till now, we've been only pulling out the data, giving something, working, reworking. So what we really need to do is understand the pulse of what the management is doing, wants, and probably change our roles from, just the reporting roles to a strategic influencing role. And when I say that our roles are changing from the reporting to the strategic influencing role, that's where the importance of data analytics come. And what can data analytics do for the organization? Of course, the right data, accurate data, timely data, and relevant data. So with these 4 things in place, it's very important for us to understand how we are supposed to give the data for the organization. And today, giving data is not about numbers only. It's about what visual, what optics you create. Sometimes a particular data can be seen, as a wonderful growth. I'll just tell you a very small example. I was into a kind of business earlier where it was an installed base driven business. So when it's an installed base driven business, if you compare your Q1 of last year and Q1 of this year, there will obviously be an increase. But have we compared Q1 to Q4 of last year? So that is the evolution. So what kind of message you want to give to the management and your respective stakeholders, it's very important. From, period on period, you can always see an extreme growth. I'm just talking in case it's a non-seasonal kind of a business. You do not have quarter-wise peaks, it just goes on. So, how you represent the data and what is the relevance of the data, that is probably very, very important. So it's just not about numbers, it's about creating the right visualization of data. Because again, at the management level, it is not possible for them to, go line-wise. If you just put a table, a long table, and lots of data into that, time is very limited. We need to feed data to our management and stakeholders in the form of visuals. The optics of a data is very important. So that's where I will say that, our role in presenting the right structure of data and the relevant right data is extremely important. And sir, I would ask you to repeat the second part of the question.
No, I think you have already answered that. And primarily what I hear from you is, one is that alignment of the data with these strategic objectives is very important. And then you keep the business focus.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely very,
somewhere,
very important.
you just give irrelevant data, you even lose your importance being finance. Then, you get termed as, oh, you are accountant. So probably we'll have to even, market our role to be, strategic influencers to the decision makers of the organization. And that's where we all have a very, very important role to play. So that's my thought.
Influencer is a big word today.
Hi, so not YouTube influencers.
Thank you.
But boardroom influencers. Yeah. Probably I'll tell that our function is more of, a boardroom influencer today. Yes. Of course, at the CFO level, definitely the CFO is a part of the decision making, but then it's the CFO's responsibility how to maneuver that data for, making, attaining the objectives of the organization.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Gaurav, I come to you, and there are 2 Gaurav, so I'll call you Kumar. So Kumar, Gaurav, with real-time dashboards and predictive analytics, how are CFOs leveraging BI tools to make agile and informed financial decisions? And it would be good if you could just, give some examples of that.
Very good morning to all of you, and thanks, Mr. Singh, Suparna, for excellent insights. I worked with retail for long now, and retail is about all, data. We are not as big as data on telecom industry, but we really churn a lot of information about customers. And we really play around with what we can do with the customer information. To give you a number, in my previous company, we were doing transaction close to 200 million a year. We did a broad math, once our promoter asked how many people we touch in the country. The number came to around 350 million people we are touching in a year. And most of them are upper middle class, people who are Gen Z. We did a broad math because you really can't capture the age under the IT Act when you order something. broad math, we put up we took help of the consultants, and we realized 70% Gen Z know our brand. So I was with KFC, Pizza Hut, Costa, Wango. And we said what we can do with that data is our sales team understand how the customer profile is changing, what people are ordering online. The data was there. I mean, obviously it gets captured. But is our finance teams, and as you rightly said, is our sales team understand, what is really happening or what is going through in the customer mind. So two things we did when we started this project. We called it that we will invest. Most of the time when the finance guys talk, we say cost. We decided it's not a cost for the company. We are building a future for the company. This data will be, at some point of time when we build year after year, it will become a gold mine to decide what we want to do, where we want to open our stores, what is customer thinking, especially Gen Z. The whole focus was what is going on in the mind of 18-year-old customer when they order KFC fried chicken, what gets into their mind. We started working on our POS system. I mean, everybody have seen it when you go to a restaurant or a retail shop, there's a system where the order is punched. We make it foolproof. We realize it has some gaps in terms of what kind of tender customer is paying. So just to give you a ballpark number, your credit card transaction costs you 1%, which seller is taking care of. So if you pay 1,000 rupees for a clothing garment, 1% is paid to the bank. That's why a bank or your credit card companies make money. We started deep diving into a consumer behavior, which region, which state, where you have cash coming in. Where customer is more cash driven, where it is more credit card driven, what kind of credit card they use, and that data you can get. I mean, there's no confidentiality issues on getting that data. And what we realized that there is a potential of around $3 million saving just on the brands by pushing customer on, GPay. There's no transaction when you pay through Paytm and GPay. You can actually get marketing deals through the Paytm and all, because a lot of burn happening by the banks on pushing customers to the Paytm. So that's the first win we had, which is straight bottom line improvement for the stores. Secondly, we also realized pockets where a lot of cash being generated, and that was the time when, again, note changes happen. So we also, really capitalize on it, enticing customer to give us money, in cash, because it's 1,000 rupees not got changed, right? Or 5, yeah, okay. So, that's the power of data, we're able to drive the business, through the government policies or enticing customer to pay us through GPay instead of using the credit card. We changed the script. So if you go to a store, the front-ending guy will ask you, do you want to GPay? Or do you want to pay through the Paytm machine? You have seen the dynamic QR codes. I mean, that's the kind of work we did with the sales and marketing team. Another big thing, as you rightly said, Mr. Singh, is the data quality. We do a lot of reconciliations in our retail business, or Airtel, telecom, or banking. We also realize that a lot of finance time is going to handle exceptions. Sometimes we get colored in a finance view, we have the data, let's start cleaning it up. We decided we will not do a cleanup job. And that's again when we talk to our statutory auditors, internal auditors, what kind of challenges they are seeing. See, they are the guys who are not good when it comes to giving right feedback. Not good means they will not give you nice feedback, they will give you very difficult feedbacks. And we sat with them, we have difficult conversations, just short of getting hatapai nahi hui thi, but yeah, we have some very interesting conversation. What is really troubling our sales guys? And the whole focus of the project was to make sales more agile, not finance work more easy. I mean, that will happen automatically when you have lesser issues. So a lot of work we did in our industry in the reconciliations project. When a customer pay through cash, it has to be punched through cash. Otherwise, your tender will not recollect. Tender is, the kind of money you pay. And just to give you a ballpark number, you can actually pay through 20 types of, different methods. You can pay through Sodexo cards, credit card, debit card, international credit cards, international debit cards, cash, company-driven vouchers. You have accumulated points through Amex you can pay. Then you can pay through accumulated points from other cards. You can also pay the schemes driven by the companies for their employees, by which we get a, approval to pay to, let's say, a company X, if they come to your store, a free pizza. So a lot of work on that, streamlining, very strong focus on tender reconciliations, because that's where we generate money. Close to $700 million worth of sales was happening through the POS system. So in my view, I think if finance team really gets into the business, which is, as you rightly said, is our core role, you can actually get a very good buy-in. And we invested close to, I remember, around $1 million in the project. Not a big money for a company of our scale. We have absolute zero demand of data from the finance. In 6 months, Power BI and Tableau, was absolutely given to everyone. Power BI is free, Tableau you give licenses. So every morning the CEO and the sales guys can just go on the phone. Every report is phone optimized. I mean, I don't know what's the word in tech, but my focus was if I am driving or I am having a meeting, I can just see the sales on the phone. The report has to fit exactly in the phone, which is, we actually went and checked what kind of phones people are using. We did a full survey of 18,000 people, what they use. Because our 17, out of 18,000, 17,000 is the sales stuff, which we call front end. So I mean, data usage can be extremely, extremely beneficial for the business. It's up to you and your ability to understand business and to drive it.
Yeah, sure. So what you're talking about is democratization of data. What we call it. That anybody who needs data should have data and doesn't have to go back asking for the data. Of course, you put all kinds of checks and balances so that he has or she has access to the data which is relevant, for that function. So that's one. And then second thing you said is, the data in context.
Yeah,
so
that's
that
correct.
contextual
Yes.
reference is absolutely very, very important.
What we did, Mr. Singh, we did a lockdown of the data. What we called I personally call it absolutely zero intervention in the data capturing. We went to the extent saying that any manual transaction will be approved at my end. If a sale is not being captured, you ensure customer gets the product. If you have a problem on the IT system, we will never do a manual intervention. If we have to take a hit on some adjustment in the accounting, finance team will do. We became absolutely flexible on that. The idea was in 6 months, company will have zero exceptions on the sales capturing. And you may think sales is pretty straightforward. In brick and mortar company, sale is relatively okay. I'm talking about fast moving. Just imagine I do 200 million transactions a year. 1% exception is 2 million, 20 lakhs. Yeah. Just imagine a 60 people finance team cannot handle 20 lakhs.
Yeah.
Just to give you a scale of what you can do.
I think that's where the use of AI comes in. And Pushpendra, I come to you with the AI on the role of AI in financial forecasting. So how's AI-driven predictive analysis enhancing financial forecasting, and what impact has it had on the revenue planning and risk management?
Thank you, Mr. Singh, and thank you everyone for coming. Good morning. I think since morning when we started this session, or in fact the opening session by Dr. Sharma, we've been listening digital, AI, tech, all these words. If you filter it out, I think that's the only thing which remains. Tech, digital, AI, automation. We'll just need to understand the background quickly before I'll come to AI. I think ever since we started, understanding computer, the journey was we have to make sure that computer starts functioning like humans. That's the way it started. And we can, connect the dots. It started with calculator, then we started, functions of scanning, your biometrics, fast forward. Things are, being automated, but they are kept in different pieces, but those different pieces were being picked up by different people to make sense out of it. Now with this AI, very recent, I think phenomenon is old, but everyone is, inundated with this concept of AI, etc. with the November 2022 around, when this chat GPT phenomenon actually exploded. And we started looking at what is this chat GPT, and this is really very phenomenal thing. Right from a school student till a professional, they were, amazed to kind of use it. This is something like Aladdin ka chirag kind of thing. At least whatever I give a prompt, barring misuse, it is giving me some, result in turn. So that was the kind of, testimony as to what kind of technology we are heading towards. So that's how this AI thing has come. And when we talk about AI, it's like a combination of 2-3 core functions. It's automation of data. It also includes natural language processing because it understands how we converse and how we ask questions and we conduct ourselves. And third is your computer vision, that now images, etc. are also being understood by the system. All these things to put together, like they are also concept of artificial neural networks, you must have heard, which is nothing but a replica of human brain. So it's a digital brain which is working to put together all the data, to process it, work close to how humans behave and make sense out of it. Jogendra sir has mentioned Suparna ma'am also mentioned about this data and information. I think data is always there. What kind of use you want to, make out of it is again rest to the humans. Unless and until we become so inactive that we even, delegate this to AI. But as of now, I think the use of those data is again to CFOs and leaders to make use of that data, like Gaurav mentioned, how to harness that, 20 million entries. In our kind of business also, a huge number of people drop in, a lot of patrons drop in from different walk of lives. We also do analyze that data, and that data is really helpful to understand the pattern preference. And accordingly, I think customer-centric, personalized marketing, so many things can be done. Obviously, you have to just ask the right questions. So AI is basically something that we can't afford to miss. People who are thinking that, no, we are just, I think kind of outdated or too old to embrace it, I think they are the one who must embrace it, because technology is new, but the kind of power, the kind of thinking, ethics, so many things that needs to be provided has to come from them, not from the youngsters, but from them. So this is the right opportunity to embrace it. To my mind, AI is something that everyone has to correlate with. It's like I want to write a simple letter. I will ask ChatGPT, write a letter for me. But that letter may not be 100% to your requirement. It may read 80% or 85%. That 15% still with you. So cutting down your work to just 15% of your efforts, isn't it miraculous? We have to think that way, I think.
Yeah, I think AI is becoming all pervasive in a way, and you cannot ignore it. Ignore it at your own peril. Not only actually ignoring, rather that is a power in your hand which has to be harnessed and which has to be utilized, which has to be trained. Of course, there are all kinds of ethical considerations in place, etc. But even with that, I think it's very important for us to be able to harness that. I come to you, Kumar. You're part of the finance transformation team, EY. So, you must have seen the kind of challenges people, face in implementing BI and analytics. So, what kind of the challenges and how do you resolve them?
Thanks, extreme panelist, and good morning, everyone. I think every one of the panelists here spoke about what has been done and what has been the outcome. If I were to answer your question, I will put in a different way. If I have to compare, everyone plays cricket or knows cricket, right? If I have to do a comparison, what makes Sachin Tendulkar a great batsman? It's not about his talent. Everyone has their talent, and every organization, unlike that, has its own pros and cons. But what differentiates him is his resilience and his fundamental focus on basics, right? What organizations that we have done, and we'll talk about, there is published information across internet as well, that over a period of last 10 years, organizations have invested in technologies. They have, to the extent of 17% they have increased their investment, but their outcome has not been that much, except for cases where it is retail, etc. But what do I do in manufacturing? So I think, as I was comparing with the likes of Sachin, who's a great player and a great idol for all of us, I think the focus on the basics is one of the key. And when I say basics, it's about the data and how do we capture the data. Gaurav gave a very good example about ensuring that if a tender has to be booked, it has to be booked in the right cost center or etc. Let me put a different analogy. In manufacturing, we all do yield reporting as an example. What is the input-output ratio, correct? Now, when you go ahead and do this, data was there and everyone came back to say that, look, my yield reporting is fair to what I'm expecting, what is output coming into it. But the basic fact of how you set up your standard becomes a very important aspect. By means, if you have a machine assembly line which is expected to run at a particular efficiency, but you have reset it to the likes of what the inefficiency it is carrying, the output will not be thrown. So I think there is a fundamental focus on what needs to be done basic. I think the other digital aspect that brings about it transparency. And what I have seen in multiple clients that we have worked across is people are afraid of being transparent. And that is one of the fundamental blockages adoption of data and analytics. If you are transparent, oh, my inefficiencies will come out and I will be penalized because of that. Fear of insecurity is one of the fundamental blockages. So transparency, as long as you have transparency in it, you focus on your basic, okay, this is how the data needs to be captured, right? If I am not capturing my data at the right level, I will never be able to. Point in case, if I am, let's say in credit cards or otherwise, if I am making a payment as a distributor, how am I making a payment? Is it towards the credit that I own, or it is towards an advance? So if I have to define a distributor behavior, how will I do that if I'm not capturing the two pieces separately? So traditionally, as you rightly said at the beginning of your opening as well, that how you set up ERP becomes important. And quite often or not, when you set up your ERP, you don't look into forward-looking thinking to say how the data needs to be captured. And that, to my mind, also becomes one of the fundamental blockages in terms of AI adoption. So 3 points. One, transparency and insecurity that transparency drives. Focus on basics, that is not happening. And the third is around future forward-looking to say, these are the data points that is required for me to enable that entire thing digitally.
Absolutely, very, very relevant points, that Kumar made, and future forward view is absolutely necessary. And, while we are implementing this, we are bound to face challenges. We are bound to fail at times. But, I always say when you get a setback, don't sit back. Step back and bounce back. You just go back and see what went wrong, learn from it, and then make a move forward. So that is extremely, extremely important. Suparna, I come back to you, and this time, I'd like shorter responses in the interest of time. We often see data silos in organizations, So how do you really resolve that conflict of data silos, which are in most of the organizations, especially the legacy organizations?
Yeah, a very, very, big problem statement that data is in silos, and with, digitization, transformation, AI kind of evolving over the last 8 to 10 years, we have now come to a situation, as in when I say we, all of us, all kinds of organizations, big and small, and I'll tell you what is the difference, that everybody has done their bit of transformation, digitization over the last few years, but then all the data has been in silos. So there are data ponds, data lakes, and there isn't enough integration amongst them. And typically, I'll tell you how it has evolved is that organizations, suppose it's a small, medium-sized organization, and probably they have not done any mergers, acquisitions. So they have their different functions using different softwares, different AI tools, different digitization tools. Like a supply chain will have something different, HR will have something different, R&D will have something different, and of course finance, who's probably the owners of all the data, they have their own ERP to do that. But then it has so happened that maybe R&D implemented a software, but then that is not integrated. So that is one problem statement where, core organizations or traditional organizations are facing. And another problem which aggressive organizations are facing is that whenever they did an acquisition, so the target was on a different platform, a different software, and that particular kind of integration has not yet happened. So lots of organizations are in that corrective action phase now. Different, silos where the data is, and very typically I can, kind of relate to a very typical North Indian thali where you have all the dal, sabzis and all that. And then as finance, you have the staples, the roti and the rice. You combine the roti with a dal, a sabzi, and the rice with a dal and sabzi. But then you are not talking to each other, and on top of all that is the sweet dish, which actually sits like a BI tube.
I'm feeling hungry.
So sorry to use such a common this thing, but actually it's a problem like that. Like the thali has silos of everything, we organizations also have data silos. So today, this corrective action is actually making us think back. And again, going back to my first question, which I was trying to answer, what kind of data is required in the organization? What is available? What needs to be evolved? And what needs to be integrated? And what needs to be left behind? Sometimes we have the data ponds and data lakes, which really doesn't have relevant data. So for the organization to reach to that next level of good data, so that it helps in good decision and analytics, it is important what to take, what to leave, and how to integrate. And again, the requirement of the management and the stakeholders is very important. And also from finance, because we also need to often, wear binoculars for a foresight, or to think something which is not there today. We also need to wear that hat to see what new software or new integration which we are doing can take care of not only the current 3-4 years, but also 10 years from now. So these are the different aspects that we need to see to integrate the data which is in silos. And only then can we give the relevant data and timely data to our stakeholders.
Thanks, Suparna. I think that was the integration, and we all use third-party softwares which sit on top of our ERPs, and it's absolutely very, very important to ensure that we integrate those data. Gaurav, I come to you, on a very important aspect of risk management, fraud detection. So how do you think companies are using BI and data analytics to mitigate risks and detect financial frauds and improve regulatory compliance?
As Gaurav mentioned, that I will not talk about the brick and mortar companies. It's relatively very different. They're on a different level of maturity. I will talk about the cutting edge businesses, retail, telecom. In our case, we did two things. I mean, in one of the board discussions, the biggest risk we were running is our contract management. I did a broad math. I was handling different markets, global markets. I was signing 2,000 agreements in a year. Actually, promoter asked, can you guarantee? And the agreements have average tenure of 8 years. Just imagine, I will leave, but the agreements stay with the promoter. And a very fair ask. I had absolutely no answer to convince him that everything is okay. Because I was relying on a legal is relying on a junior legal guy, and maybe some of that work is outsourced. So we call Bain and McKinsey, and we asked them, can AI read our agreements? See, for me, two clauses are absolutely important. Do we have a liquidated damages in the contract? I leave, promoter end up paying 10 years rent on a lease because I asked the lesser ki main chhod ke ja raha hu, and we have to pay for the balance to go period lease. Or there is a clause, especially with the government contract, which really bind the company, and the penalties are probably bigger than the net worth which company is running. Or maybe some clause which is not as per the laid down law of the country. And what we realized that you can train AI for that. So that's the first step we took. And we went ahead and talked to the legal team that we trust you, but we will independently check everything. The project went through. I mean, we invested money on it. And I realized that it's really started showing that there is a fatigue in the legal department to check contracts. In the end, somebody has to read those 100, 200 pages. I think that's the first step we took. It was really path-breaking for us because nobody thought that, AI can tell you. And it's a very simple thing. It's like comparing the standard clause with what is there in the agreement. The problem is who will read the damn PDF and the version control. So that's AI can do for you because I've seen it. On coming on the fraud detection, we did a lot of work on our petty cash management. Not again a brick and mortar issue. It's very big problem in the retail. To give you a ballpark number, $1 billion retail company will have at least $5 to $10 million worth of petty cash at the stores, depending upon which geography you operate. We developed the software. We put an AI on checking of the bills. And we talked to the vendor, can AI start reading what is there in the invoices? The problem is the bills are 10 rupees, 50 rupees, 20 rupees, 100 rupees. Nobody can see those bills in finance. You need 100 people to check those bills. I mean, AI started telling us that the bill is not on a third-party invoice. A lot of bills come on handwritten thing, on memos which has no GST number. AI it's very simple. They will just check the GST field and see the number of GST. I mean, these are some of the things we did, Mr. Singh, in my role to use
absolutely. And this is absolutely, using AI and data. It's becoming easier to see trends and see, what is abnormality, in the data. Pushpendra, cost optimization, again is a very important aspect of any CFO's life. So can you share examples of how data analytics has helped organizations optimize costs, enhance operational efficiency, and improve profitability?
So I think Gaurav has rightly given a real use case. Cost is a major concern, and specifically for a company which is having pan-India operation, where you have to have just-in-time kind of delivery of your inventory for making sure that your operations or the sale does not get stalled. Logistic is one area, and inventory delivery and the right level of inventory stock at the various locations, because you cannot be having your vendors specifically for each location. It happens that you have a centralized vendor who will be providing or supplying goods or the inventory on real-time basis at center, two, three main centers, and then inventory or the goods has to go through logistics. I think their company has invested good amount of money to make sure there are no wastes. At the same time, there are real-time inventory which is available for making sure that, because we have data, we understand the sales preferences, patterns, dropping into various locations. I think this is one real-time example, I will say.
Yeah, absolutely. Kumar, one of the most important aspects that I talked about, in my opening speech was people. So skill development and upskilling people, So how should organization equip their finance teams with the right skills to leverage BI and data?
That's a very interesting topic, and it warrants a separate day-long session as well. But just to answer on that, I think two critical areas that organizations are feeling the burnt on. One is the traditional skill sets and the traditional people who have come across this. That's average vintage of about 24 years in the organization. Remolding them to the new ways of working has always been a challenge. While the new generation which is coming on does not have the functional know-how to be able to do that. So I think talent as a subject in itself is one of the biggest pain area that the CFOs and the finance organization is currently facing on. So what we have seen is organization working around is a blend of business people that comes in at what we call as a pod structure that comes in, which means a functional and a technical guy coming together to be able to drive these pieces, because business people come with the business knowledge and along with the technical who help analyze the data and data scientists coming into it. So from a people strategy and talent strategy perspective, we are seeing a blend, an emergence of pod structure that is coming through, and also encouraging the current staff to move into more analytical capabilities like data science also. Some of the leading organizations globally have started hiring techno-functional roles in the finance organization. It is no longer about only having a CA background or a functional competency that have. It's also about how they are developing and bringing in the new age skills into the overall piece. So I think that's the two areas that we have. So from a strategy perspective, what organizations are currently doing, as I said, just to summarize the point, one, build a pod structure to build in competency of both functional, business, and technical, and then upskill the current staff to move to more data analytics and data scientists. Because as you rightly said, the hygiene part of it, the core transactional part of it is something that AI is anyways taking apart. We spoke about fraud, we spoke about bill processing, invoicing, etc. That's anyways taken care of by the automation part. So the focus of the team is to upskill themselves to new age analytics and AI.
Yeah, please.
So in one of the CFO conferences that I had been, this point on hiring engineers in finance was discussed, and probably then these engineers grooming to CFO roles, and the probably competition with our traditional degrees that we have as CFOs. So that was also challenged, which means today it's just not about accounting, reporting. It's primarily the job of a CFO, the role of a CFO is again that that predictive or that that strategic hat that which we are wearing, and where data actually helps us achieve that objective for the organization. And irrespective whether you are coming from an academic finance background or from an engineering background, it's again all about data. So we can have engineers evolving into CFO roles in the years to come.
So beware CFOs and chartered accountants.
Caution, caution.
Okay, so thank you very much for your views. I just open the floor to questions. Any questions, please? Say when there are no questions, there are two things that have happened, I always say that. One, we have been extremely, extremely good, very lucid, which I would like to believe. Or we were all doing all bullshit and nobody understood anything. I'm sure it was the first one. So if anybody has a question, please. Oh yes, we have one. Can you just please give it over there?
Yeah, hi. I'm Gaurav Mathur from Felix. I wanted to just understand with the evolving role that everybody is seeing in their individual departments, how do you seeing the CFO office and the CIO office now interacting with each other? Because we see a lot of technology conversations happening with CFOs now, right? Do you think CIO office has become, is changing now and the CFOs are taking up that role?
Again, I think this used to be the case that there used to be separate verticals when it comes to brick and mortar companies, except when you implement SAP. But if you see the cutting edge sector now, or the fast-paced retail, or for that matter, other sectors, my experience is that the onus lies on the CFOs to be more tech-friendly. I think we, as a finance committee, are alien to IT. I mean, our first response is, yaar, samajh mein nahi aata firewall kya hai. That's what we respond. I mean, see, what you tell your teams, they also learn from you. I went and studied IT. I mean, I did a certification course because I was feeling difficult when I was having a difficult conversation with my, CTOs. And those conversations were absolutely critical for the company. I feel much more confident because I understand what they talk. And see, a CTO, being a CTO is still a technical guy. It's our job to train them and help them to understand business, and most of them are very good in it. I mean, as I was telling you, when we worked on our POS system, the whole focus was, can IT make it easier? If they say no, you will trust them because you have no way to challenge it. I think our normal approach is to blame or say that others are not understanding business. As a matter of fact, we are not really an accounting departments now. There are teams who does accounting. Some of us at our level are really driving businesses, especially which are not traditional businesses. They are extremely ruthless on competition. They're very Gen Z driven. They're very small, ticket size businesses, 400, 500 rupees food item. I think we should sit back and, rethink finance approach to the CTOs, not really blaming them for what we are facing or feeling.
Just to add on to what Gaurav says, see, in our experience, we are seeing this blurring line between the two organizations, right? And point that Jogendra and ma'am was also saying about silos and datas. Most of the CXOs today are working together to say this is the right organization requirement that we have, and how can we enable that decision making in the organization. And that is where all the individual parties are coming together to create a common pool to say what data is required. As an example, R&D in pharma, for example, R&D is sharing their data with their finance team to say, okay, if this was the projected financial, when I operated launched a product, how is it now treating it, which in the earlier cases was still in silos. So how do you bring those walls, define those walls? That's where CFO-CIO partnership is increasingly getting important, and as we move forward onto this case.
In some places, we even find these two roles merging. It's not that the two roles are kept in organizations while organizations are redesigning their org charts. So these roles are also merging. So that's also one important fact that we need to, see that this is there.
Just to add to, I think the fact is that though the role is blurring, but the two are still required in the sense, being a financial leader, you will always be able to identify and explain your requirements, but you cannot be replicating that through all the IT jargons or IT back systems. You need that efficient partner. And as I think Gaurav has mentioned, it's more evolved that you have to work for the business instead of just looking at it. I need to run for a product. I need something as IT automation. You have to work together till the time you see that result coming out or not, because you have to bring him to the coherence that this is what I expect and what IT has to do at the back end.
Yeah.
So it's like
Right.
concurrent.
Thank you, Pushpendra. And I think we were top on efficiency at 0-0, bang on. So thank you very much. I think all of you made some very, very interesting points. And thank you very much for bearing with us. Thanks a lot.